Hi everybody and welcome to OBS Obsessed. My name's John Lacey. Today on the show we're going to be talking all about how you can create a presentation in OBS Studio to perhaps share as a recorded video, as a live streamed presentation, or even in programs like Zoom or Microsoft Teams via the virtual camera integration. So that's going to be the focus today. We're going to talk about screen sharing and also working with slides, so PowerPoint slides, whatever you happen to be using in terms of that software. We are going out live to all the various places, so please let me know if you are out watching, where you're watching from, and what you're up to. So let's talk about this. And again, if you're new to this show, this is all about OBS Studio. So let's have a look at OBS before we get started. Hello to, I've got to remember, I've got to press two buttons to make this happen. But hello to Business Growth Ready, who's saying morning from for Birmingham. All right, very nice. I have a feeling it's a different kind of morning for you over in that part of the world than it is for me over here in Australia, but let's get stuck in. So this is OBS Studio. This is obsproject.com, which is where you can download this software, and it's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's absolutely free, and it is open source. And the great thing about that, and we'll touch on this a little bit later in today's show, is that because it's open source, there is a literal army of people developing things to extend its basic functionality. So we're going to check that out later today. But I guess before we get started, I just want to take a moment to think about why you might want to build out a presentation in OBS Studio, given that a lot of software has things to share screens and to share files with. And I think for me, I really love the power of being able to bring all that stuff into the web camera sort of canvas, if you will, and having all this stuff happen here, because you don't need to worry too much when you go to different pieces of software as like Microsoft Teams and Zoom and Google Meets as to where all these sharing buttons are, and doing that familiar dance of can you see my screen, which I'm sure we all find incredibly annoying. So you can bring all those elements inside your webcam frame. You can control them there, and people will be completely dazzled because they don't really know how this magic works. So that's something you can do. But you can also give these presentations to people in Zoom and record a version of it locally to your own computer. We're going to talk about recording in vertical and horizontal a little bit later as well. So if someone can't make the meeting, you have a recording of your tutorial. And I know lots of people out there are saying, but the entire meeting is recorded and available to watch. I don't know about you, but I find very few people watch meeting recordings because there's often a lot of stuff in there that's not particularly relevant to them. So if you can maybe take your segment, so if it's an hour-long meeting and your segment happens at 55 minutes in, don't make people suffer through that first 55 minutes if that's not appropriate. You can actually record it and upload it somewhere and give them the link separately. But also in the events, you can do a run through, which is good practice anyway. But also if you record it, you have a backup. So if you become unwell, if your internet dies, if your computer dies, if you run out of power for whatever reason, you can make that available to the meeting organizer ahead of time. And that stuff can carry on without you. So I think those are some of the reasons. I just want to check really quickly in the back end here, because I did have an article about this during the week that I wrote, and I'm just wondering if there are any other reasons that I've skipped over. The other thing, of course, is that you can control the branding inside your web camera frame. So I think that's really, really cool. You can have colors and graphics and images and slides and calls to action, QR codes. You can have URLs. You can give people next actions. You can do all kinds of things. And the great thing is, if we actually go to my portable version of OBS Studio, which is over here, and again, I'll talk to you a little bit about masks later on, but the Advanced Masks plugin has had an update and you can do some really cool stuff with it. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But essentially what you can do in OBS is we have this thing called Scene Collection. So you can actually create your own presentation as its own separate scene collection. And if you ever need to give that presentation again, all you need to do is come into the software, pick the one that you wanted to go with, and just take it from there. So you can have all these things built out ahead of time. And I guess there is an investment of time upfront to build this out. I'm not going to discount that. That's definitely a thing that happens. But I think it can be really quite useful and really quite meaningful. So what I'm going to do right now, if we go to Scene Collection, and I'll go New, and I'm just going to give this one a generic name, but again, if you're using a real project, you'd be a little bit more specific here. Click OK. I've already used that name, so let me just try Presentation 2, because I suspect I was trying things out earlier in the week that I've forgotten about. Let me just make sure I've got the chat open as well. Hello to, say, the facilitator who's joining us from Germany. And it's really annoying, but Ninja Chat still seems to be cutting off some names there, and I don't know why, because I did upgrade it during the week, and it seemed to be working okay then. But we will keep going nonetheless. So first of all, if you are kind of new to OBS, and I do have a whole bunch of resources on the YouTube channel about this, but this can look like a bit of a black box. It's literally a black box in some regards. If you don't like it to be black, you can always go to the settings and go to appearance and try out one of these other options. There is a light mode. I realize that's quite blinding for some of you, but that is an option. Generally speaking, I'll just stick with the default because that's what most people will see. So let's click OK. And now we can think about the scenes and the sources that we want to use to build out this presentation. So I'm probably going to, I'm going to rename this one Start. I'll have another one and I'll call it Slideshow. I'll have another one and I will call it Screenshare. And I'll have a, I'll call it a call to action, a CTA. I probably won't build that out in today's show, but I think it's worthwhile including. So if you've got some next step at the end of your presentation you want people to take, if it's to go to the website or sign up to the newsletter, that's a really good thing to include. So let's just talk about the slideshow functionality first of all. And this, what we kind of need to do is if we go to whatever software we're using to create our slides, in this case I'm using Affinity Designer, but you can do similar things in Microsoft PowerPoint. There's usually an export to image option. So here I can actually come in here and sort of go to each one of my slides and go export. And that'll give me the option to save as a PNG or whatever. But I have to do that one at a time. There is actually a thing that I had to learn a little bit about called the export persona. So if I go over here, I'm not going to dwell on these settings too much because I honestly don't know what half of them do. So selection, I'll go to defaults. Or maybe I can do that and go selection. All right, so what I want to do is I want to... This will be the great point at which I don't really know how to export these images. Here we go. Yeah, so export slices down the bottom here. I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'll call that virtual camera. And I will export those. And hopefully I'll get a whole bunch of images that I can bring into OBS. So I guess if we go back to OBS, you will see, obviously there's nothing really here to play with just yet, but let's actually go in and I'm going to add in some sources. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I am currently using my main camera. So I'm going to go and add in my video capture device. This again would ideally be your web camera, or a more elaborate camera, perhaps with a cam link, and that's generally what I do here. But today I'm going to cheat a little bit with the OBS virtual camera. All right, so we have a whole bunch of different options. If this isn't sort of filling the screen and you know it should, you can sort of change the resolution, change it to custom, make sure that it is 1920 by 1080. Do all of the things. Again, because I'm using the virtual camera out of OBS, there is no audio setting here, but often there will be if you're using like a digital camera. And you can configure this to have audio as well. I'm not going to worry about that here. I'm going to do that separately. So essentially if I go OK, we'll see that I'm here in this web camera. So the other thing that we might want to do at this point is actually incorporate our audio, because again, that could be here. And if you do have a webcam that supports audio, it has a mic built into it, you would actually see something over here in the audio mixer that you probably want to mute because it's probably too far away from your mouth to really capture good audio. So so if you need to do that, you can do that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and add in my audio input capture. I'll just call this Rodecaster because it's everything that's coming in from the Rodecaster for me in the stereo mix. And when I do that, you'll see over here that I've actually got some levels, and I could go in and adjust those if I need to. But again, you don't really need to worry about this if you're just going to use the virtual camera, which we'll talk about more in a second. But if you do want to also record, and that's kind of the motivation I have here, it's really important that we include the Rodecaster. And you probably want to do that on all of the scenes where you'll be speaking or playing sound effects from the sound pad. So again, I want to go in and I want to add those things back in. So I go to my video capture device. This time, instead of recreating it, what I want to do is click on this add existing, and I want to select add the video capture device. And again, I want to do that with the audio input as well. So add existing and Rodecaster. So now we've got the video and the audio on both of these scenes, which is brilliant. So let's go back and actually work with our slideshow. So I guess we have a couple of options here. We have the ability to add in an image. And if you wanted to maybe set up a scene per image, because maybe you want to have yourself on certain slides and not on other slides, or you maybe want to reposition where you appear within a slide, you can certainly do that slide by slide, scene by scene, as the case may be. But I want to really show you this image slideshow option. So this is really cool. It's image slideshow. You could rename it at this point. I'm going to click OK. And we have a few different options here. And I've made an entire video on this in the past, so I won't dwell on this too much today. But we have automatic, which essentially will just go through your slides at a particular speed. And you can adjust all those values down here. But for today's purposes, I really want to use the manual option. I want to have the ability to go from slide to slide when I want to. You've got the ability to loop this. You've got the ability to hide when it's done. The bounding box as well. And then we've got our image files. So we can do one of two things. I can click on here, the plus sign, and go add files. And if I go to that magical folder, which I think I called virtual camera, there it is. Yep. So I can add these in one at a time, but what I can do that's probably even more efficient is if I go add directory, and I can just select that folder. And if I click OK, you'll see that I've got my slides here. While this has actually got focus, I do have the ability to go sort of forward and back in my slides. So we've got that there. This is not the most exciting slideshow in the world, but it's just for demonstration purposes. But I guess what we want to do here is I kind of want this slideshow to be, you know, maybe to one side, sort of behind me. So I can actually click on the corner and drag in, and I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. Here, normally I would sort of do my green screen thing if I was using my proper version of OBS, but because I'm kind of cheating a little bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera to the side. And probably what I want to do, just to keep the illusion going, is I'm going to actually come in here and add a color source in. And I don't really know off the top of my head what this particular color, like the hex value of this, so I might have to do a little bit of cheating in the other version of OBS. So let me just find out what that's actually called. Okay, so I can grab that hex color. And I can turn that off, and over here we'll go select color. You can pick a color from these options. You can adjust the sliders. We've actually got a whole bunch of different color format options, especially if you've done a bit of web design in your time. You'll be familiar with all those values and options. I'm going to paste my color in there, and I'm going to click OK. And the thing you'll see here is that the color has appeared on top, and this is broadly true of all the sources. Once you add something, it'll be on top. What we can do is we can click on it and we can drag it down to the list and let go of the mouse button, but we also have these up and down buttons here. So if I click that one a few times, right down to the very bottom, you'll see that I've got me on one side, I've got my slides on the other. Now, one of the things I kind of, and I probably move this in a little bit, I kind of wanted to have a bit of a newsreader vibe here. So again, I could make that bigger if I wanted to, or smaller. I can do whatever I want here, and that's sort of all good. But now when I've got that selected, I can go through these. And I guess the first thing to note is that the images source and the image slideshow source do support transparency. So for a couple of these slides, I actually have no real backgrounds and then sort of pretend background around some of the text. So that's definitely something you can do, and that can be quite a useful trick that you can use from time to time. So you've got that going for you. And it's really awesome if you can work in different layers like that. That can be really, really cool. But again, just play with these experiments a little bit and just see where you want to go and what you want to do here. I'm reasonably happy with that. I guess the other thing that I kind of want to do is I don't necessarily want to be worrying about clicking on here and going from slide to slide all the time. That's probably going to be a little distracting for me as the presenter. So if I go to the File menu and I go to Settings, and I go to the hotkeys, I think if I search Next, so we've got Image Slideshow, Next Slide, I can do a little bit of magic here, and I'll go Control Shift. In fact, what I might do, turn my numlock key on, so I'll go Control Shift 3. In fact, I might go 6 actually, or right, as the case may be. All right, and I will go. All right, cool. And I'm just going to go Previous, and I will go Control Shift and the key above that one. So now, whether this slideshow has focus or not, I can sort of go Next, or Previous in this case. So I can go Next, I can talk about the things, I can do that, and I can just use my keyboard. You can additionally set up a key on your Stream Deck if you have one of those devices. Again, a really awesome thing to do. And the way that you do that essentially is just take whatever keyboard shortcuts you've produced, go into the Stream Deck software. Let me just bring it up in the background here. I'll drag this over where you can see it. So if I go to my extra large, for example, I actually don't have a lot of keys for this particular scene collection. Like, I don't have a lot of buttons. Some of my other shows, every single one of these is filled. So if I go Next and click in here, and I do the same thing over here for Previous. Now, when I click on those physical buttons on my Stream Deck, I can go Next, or I can go Previous. So that's really cool. And again, keyboard shortcuts are great, but you kind of need to remember what they are. I find it so much easier if I just have a button that has some text on it or an icon on it, so I know exactly what I'm referring to. So let's just quickly go back into those image slideshow settings, because I just want to make sure that... and I think that's all pretty good. So I guess the other thing too that I didn't mention was we have some transition types. So we can go between these. So we can have a simple cut. So if I go Next, you know, it just goes from one to the other. We had it on fade. We also have swipe. So that sort of does a swipe in that direction, which again, could be engaging, could be distracting, kind of depends on what you're doing. And we've got slide as well, which is another fun option. You can adjust the time between the transition, for example. So if I wanted this to be really quick, maybe I could go 100. You see, that's super quick. Whereas I kind of actually liked the slower transition speed. I think that's quite cool. So we've got those options there, and that's really cool. I think that's awesome. That's quite useful. Don't overload your viewers with too much text and imagery on the slide. And keep in mind too that you can sort of, if you wanted to get really fancy with this, you could even set up move transitions so that at certain points it becomes larger and smaller or changes position. I guess the other thing, and we'll talk about this more in the screen share options, is that if you have a solid background behind you, you don't have any degree of green screen magic, which again, I don't necessarily recommend to everybody because it does require a bit of tweaking at times. It can be a little bit temperamental, and I feel like I got really lucky with my setup because there are just things that seem to work really well, almost in spite of me. So that's what we've got over there. I guess the other thing that I might want to think about too is if I go to my slideshow on my screen share, I'm probably going to want to reposition myself and put myself into some sort of shape. So we'll do that in a second. But let's talk about our screen share options. So we have the ability, if we click on our sources, we've got the ability to capture a display. So this is an entire screen or monitor, and everything that's on that monitor will be displayed. You can actually hold down the Alt key and drag in to crop this. So if there's only one section of this that you want to capture, you can do that there. The other main one though is window capture. So if I go display capture and I click OK, you should give it a more meaningful name than I'm doing right now. But essentially what you can do is you can select one of your screens. I actually have 4 screens and they're all kind of in use for this stream, so I don't really have a lot to share with you, and I think it's probably going to get a little bit meta. What I might do is I'll just show you my field monitor, which just shows me a clock. So now I've got my clock here. I can choose whether I want to capture the cursor or not. So if I actually move my mouse over this display, you'll see it on the screen capture. If I don't want that, I can turn that off. But that's really cool. And like what I can do, again, I can resize this. I should say too, my little field monitor isn't set up for 1920 by 1080. It's a little bit smaller. But I can hold down the Alt key and I can drag in if I want to crop this. Maybe I crop it from both sides. Maybe I just want that time in the corner for whatever reason. And we can go from there. Again, not the most exciting use of the display capture, but essentially this will capture anything that shows up on that screen. So even if I were to, and again, I don't know how elegant this is going to be, but we'll give it a go. If I move this over, my Infinity app over here, and again, what I might do is I'll just go right click on this, go to transform and go reset transform. You can see that over here. So I could show that there. I could make that a little bit larger. Again, that's not really the same resolution, but I can zoom in. Those are all options that we have available to us. But the really important thing to keep in mind is just that all the screen is being captured. And I don't really want to do my TED talk on why you should be really careful about sharing your screen, because occasionally you might accidentally share some information you didn't mean to share, and that's out there for the world. But just keep that in mind. So I personally like to have one monitor that's really only used for screen sharing, and that's the only one I will ever share in any kind of software, and it is this one here with this second version of OBS running. But let's get rid of the display capture. Let's remove this. I guess the thing that got me thinking about this last week was that I was talking about my Blackmagic design speed editor for DaVinci Resolve, and I made a little video about it, and I thought it would be so cool if I had the slides and the screen share in the one place so I could show that off more clearly. So I'm just going to open up DaVinci Resolve in the backgrounds here. And I'll talk to you about how we can share that specific window. So once that has happened, but this is OBS Obsessed, the show all about OBS Studio, which of course is this amazing software that we can use to share our, to live stream, to record local video, and also to change how you show up on webcam. So if you do want to look more professional in meetings, for example, if you do want to do training and tutorials, those things are good options as well. So I'm going to go into my speed editor clip. So this is literally from a show a little while ago. I've got this video up here. In fact, I'll go to the cut page because that was kind of what I was alluding to in the video. But let's go back to OBS. So now instead of capturing my display, I want to actually capture a specific window. So I'll go to add my source. I'll select window capture, and I'll actually call this one DaVinci Resolve Studio. Okay, so now we've got some options. It asks us which window do we want to capture. So Here, I want to get this one that's resolve.exe, DaVinci Resolve Studio Speed Editor Clip. So we've got that there. We've got, there are a couple of different capture methods. I always leave this on automatic. I've never had any problems with that, but you do you. We've got the ability to sort of window match this. So again, if you were to give a presentation with this software in particular, and you were using the window capture, it's a good idea just to double check that this is still working before you do your presentation. And 9 times out of 10, all you need to do is right click on it and go to properties, or even just double click on it and go to properties, and just make sure that you've reselected the window as it is, and click OK. We can capture the cursor. We can also capture the audio. So this is technically in beta, but this works really, really well. I'm always impressed by this. I'm just going to move my infinity out of the way because I don't really want that obscuring my clock. Okay, cool. So if I click on this capture option, you will see over in the audio mixer, we actually have a new audio source. So this would capture this audio. So if I'm talking about using the speed editor, which I'll demonstrate in a second, we will have this here ready to go. So I've actually got, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I can demonstrate this software. The really great thing about this is that I don't even need to have DaVinci Resolve, the DaVinci Resolve window to have focus to use the speed editor. It's kind of trippy in that regard. And as I scroll, you'll see that the audio mixer shows that the DaVinci audio is showing up here. I realize you guys can't see it. It does seem to be spiking a little bit, so I'd probably want to go into my advanced audio properties and probably bring that down. Generally speaking, I find -6 dB is pretty good for videos that have been normalized. So if I do that again, it's sort of more in the yellow and not so much in the red, which is kind of what we're looking for. But I just wanted to sort of demonstrate this, and I've got the scroll wheel on my speed editor. I can just jog through that, and I guess that's the other thing. If I go, I'm not sure how clear this is going to be actually. Although it's interesting, once I hit the jog button, it has actually brought that to the front, which again is good for me, but perhaps not so good for the OBS demonstration. But I guess what I kind of demonstrated in here was that if I go to my source, and we've got this this waveform behind me, if I do the scroll, it actually zooms in to show me the audio of where we're up to. You can see the music is happening during the opening sequence, and eventually I will actually come in here and do my speaking. If I use the scroll button, which is a different option here, you'll see that I'm actually seeing the entire waveform of this particular clip. So it's a really cool distinction. Often what I would do is just go in and out. So I put an in point, I'll put an out point, and I just hit another button just to insert that into the cut page. I'm not going to do that now because this is actually a finished video. But what I wanted to sort of, getting back to the OBS portion of this, couple of things. First of all, you know, you can see my screen share, but you can't see me. You should be able to hear me still because of this roadcaster option we've got here. But at the moment, my video capture is down the bottom. If I move that up the top, you think, okay, that's going to obscure things. I could resize myself. That might be a good option. I could actually come in here and crop this if I wanted to. But what I'm going to do instead, and this is another plugin, this is one I've alluded to earlier, and actually it's had a bit of an update this week. A couple of updates is the Advanced Masks plugin. So this one is really, really cool. Essentially a mask is just a shape that your visual source will appear in. So if I right click on, once I've downloaded and installed that, if I right click on my video source, I can go to filters. And if I go to my effect filters, I can go to Advanced Mask. I can click OK, and I can change this to a different shape. So if I wanted maybe a love heart, I can do that. I can sort of reposition where I am within this love heart, and I can go close. And again, this is probably not the greatest example here. This is not thematically related to what I'm doing, except maybe in the sense that I do love my Resolve editor, speed editor. But I guess a couple of things to note, and it probably doesn't really matter that much. Well, if we go back to our slideshow, you'll see that that mask has been applied in both places. So I don't really want that to happen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my filters. I'm going to delete this advanced masks over here. And I'm going to actually remove my video capture device from my screen share scene. I'm going to go down and add a clone, source clone. This is another plugin that you can get from obsproject.com. And I'm going to say copy of video. I might even just say copy of John in this case so I know what it is. Here I can actually choose what source or scene I want, and I'm going to go and find my video capture device. And essentially it looks the same, but it actually, it's treated differently. So if I apply an advanced mask over here, and again, we'll try a different shape this time. I really like this squircle option, which is kind of just a rounded circle, rounded square. And you can adjust all the settings there again. I don't feel like I'm particularly centered there, but let's try that. We've got all kinds of options. We can do all kinds of things with that. At the moment, it's still pretty big, but I can just drag in the corners of this. And I can just place this where it makes sense too. So I could be starting with my start. And again, I'd probably just put a static image here. Click on here, talk to you about the things, talk about actually, you know, setting up the, adding your webcam. I might go to my screen share, talk to you about this here. I might even go back to my slideshow, talk to you about the next item on my presentation. And again, whenever I need to actually do that screen share, I can sort of duck out to that particular scene and do that. And that's really, really cool. If you wanted to actually record this, and this is going to be a little bit tricky because I'm obscuring these options, so I'll move them to another place where you can see this, but we have the controls. So this is the point where we can start streaming. If we've set that up ahead of time, we can start recording. We can start using the virtual camera. So the virtual camera, if I click on this start virtual camera option and I go to zoom, I can go to choose my camera. And instead of, you know, choosing my webcam or my cam link, for example, I can actually go in and say, use the OBS virtual camera, and everything that happens in OBS visually will be shown in Zoom. And that can be really, really cool. That can be great for branding purposes. There are other settings in here, but let's not dwell on those too much. But if we go to our settings, so go to File, Settings, we do have a bunch of options in terms of our output. So if you do want to record your presentation, it's always a good idea to give this a few test runs. We do have a whole bunch of settings here. I probably wouldn't worry about them too much. I think they're probably fine the way they are. What you can do though is choose where you want these things to save. And in this case, I've got it in F, Documents, OBS and Plugins and Presentation. We've got the recording quality, which again is the same as stream. I might even just go high quality. We've got this hybrid MP4 format, which I really love, and I think it's really, really awesome. So that's what I've been using for a long time. I haven't had any problems with it. It is technically still in beta, so keep that in mind. Traditionally, these would be saved as MKV files, which I'm guessing by the name is something Russian that I'm not going to try to pronounce. The thing about that was you would actually have to remux those videos after you created them. So if I go apply and I start recording. Hi everybody, I want to talk to you about the virtual camera today. And we go stop recording. Up in the file menu, we have this thing called Remux Recordings. So we've got show recordings, which will actually show us where these things live, which is kind of handy. But if we go Remux Recordings, I can go and find the original recording, which I think is this one here. You can actually adjust this file name if you want. And by default, this is very much about date and time, which, you know, if you remember when you did things can be quite useful, but otherwise it's not particularly helpful. But if we click on Remux, it'll do its thing. It happened very quickly because that was a very short recording, but it says it's been remuxed. And now if I go back to that folder, you will see that we have the MKV version, which was the first version, and the MP4 that it's converted it to. And that's how things used to work. To be really honest with you, I've never had any problems with the hybrid MP4 format, so I'm very happy to use that and to recommend that to people. So let's go back to it. So hybrid MP4. The MP4 can have multiple audio tracks in it, which is really cool. It can even include things like you can actually record like little bookmarks in your recording in real time when different things happen, and you can retrieve that stuff as well. We've got stuff with audio tracks at the moment. If you're a beginner, just leave this on the first one and move on with your life. That's really all you need to worry about. So I kind of alluded to this earlier, but what if you want to do a vertical and a horizontal version of this at the same time? It's a lot easier than you may think. So let's go over to my browser. This, and again, I've done an entire show on this in the past, so you may be familiar with this already, but this is atom.tv. They have a brilliant thing called the vertical plugin. So you can download this, you can install it into OBS, and what happens is you'll actually get a second canvas to work with in OBS. So let's go back to OBS, and what I can do is I can go to my docs. You'll get a whole bunch of, you'll get 4 separate things over here that actually relate to this. So I'm going to go and turn them on. So we've got vertical scenes down the bottom, which is cool. Got vertical sources. Again, you might want to think about resizing all of this just to make it a little bit obvious, because the more docs you have, the harder it is to negotiate all of this. We also have vertical scene transitions. I'm not even going to worry about bringing that one up. I think that's fine without it, but we are going to bring up the vertical one, which is literally just called vertical. And this is actually our second canvas. So what we might do down here is, I'm going to actually recreate these in the vertical scenes. So I'm going to rename this one Start. I'm going to, oh, okay. Because I've already used that, I can't do it again. So what I might do is I'll put a V in front of each of these so I know they're vertical. So I'll go vertical start. We'll add another one. We'll call it V slideshow. If I can type in real time, which I can't evidently. I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to call it V Screenshare, and then V CTA. And the V just means vertical, and it's just that I can't repeat those names, so I'm doing a little bit differently. So what I can do is if I go to my slideshow, for example, in my vertical sources, I can come in and add in my camera again. So I'll go to video capture device. This actually does work a little bit differently because you have the ability to create a new one or use an existing one from the menu. So I'm going to click on video capture device. I'm going to maybe reposition where I am within this frame. Often I would actually have a black bar underneath my video, just leave it intentionally blank. But what I can do is if I go to and add in a color source, I could actually come in and reuse this one that I've got from the horizontal, but in this case, I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to hopefully still have that color in my clipboard. Awesome. I'm going to change the dimensions. So horizontal is generally 1920 by 1080. So we're going to reverse that and go 1080 by 1920. Again, that's put everything on top. So I want to move that underneath. So I'm here in my camera. And I want to actually add in my my slides. So if I go to image slideshow, again, don't select new unless you've got... The reason you might actually want to select new is if you've got a horizontal version of these slides. But in this case, I just want to reuse the existing one. Again, I probably want to resize this. I can drag in the corners, and I generally probably would just estimate that. But what I can do as well is if I right click and go to transform, I can go fit screen. And what I want to do is I just want to make sure I'm on this one, and I just want to put it up the top. So I guess just to keep this the idea of this going, I'm going to add an extra color source just to give you a sense of what this black bar generally looks like for me. So I will just go choose a black color. So I want this to have a width of 1080. The 400 it's defaulted to is probably really good for my purposes, so I can do this. And I can literally just move that down to the bottom. So in this case, I think what I probably want to do, and this will save me a lot of time, I'm going to select all of these sources. I can hold down Shift or Control, go Control C to copy, we'll go to our screen share. I don't know if you saw that, but essentially there's this very specific kind of transition that this is defaulted to, which is kind of hilarious. But oh, okay, so I need to make sure I'm in here. If I right click, I don't think it's going to let me do that. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm actually going to delete my vertical screen share. Are you sure you wish to remove it? I'm going to say yes. I'm actually going to right click on this one and I'm going to say duplicate. And I'm going to call this V screen share. I'm going to move that up. And all I really want to do here is I want to get rid of the image slideshow, and I could just hide the visibility of that with the eye and that would make it go away. Or alternatively, I could just, I could right click on it and say remove. I could, yeah, it's probably what I want to do here, although I've selected the wrong thing evidently. That's annoying. Oh dear. All right. I've made a complete mess of that. I'm going to do it again really quickly. So let's remove that. Let's duplicate this. And let's go V screen share. I don't know. It looks different, and I'm not really sure. Okay, it's actually because that slide's got some transparency in there, but I'm just not sure why I'm not seeing. Okay, that's sort of defaulted back to what it was. So again, I'm just going to recreate it, and I'm going to select my color again. So that is really weird. When that's clearly a bug. So what I'm just going to really quickly just recreate some version of this. It doesn't have to be particularly exact. And I guess the other thing, this bar that's on top of me now is probably just too long. So again, I would change this if I had a little bit more time, but there are a few other things I want to show you. So let's just do this really quickly. So the thing I want to really point out at this point is that we can actually match the vertical scenes to the horizontal ones. So if I go to V-Start, for example, there's nothing on here. It's not very exciting, but just imagine. We'll right-click on the vertical scene, go to Link Scenes, and we'll say whenever we're on the start, we want to be here as well. And I'm going to reproduce that for each of those. I'm going to go to Transition over to Link Scene, sorry. And I want to join up the screen share and the slideshow to that as well. And again, even the CTA one, which we haven't built out, we probably won't get around to doing today. But now if I go to Start, if I go to Screen Share, Slideshow, sorry. If I go to Screen Share, you'll see that these things are being reproduced on both sides. So I guess going back to our vertical slideshow, I wanted to get rid of this one here. I just want to bring in my screen share again. So that was the window capture. And again, that's going to be too large for my screen here. So I'm going to right click and go transform, and I will go fit to screen. Again, it kind of wants to center that. So you could probably come in and crop that, and that would probably be a lot better. But essentially I've got that there, and I can reposition all the elements and do whatever I want it to do. So now we've got the ability to do this in horizontal, in vertical at the same time. We can do this via the virtual camera. So if you want to do it on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, you can present it over there. If you wanted to record this, there are a few things, there are a few settings actually that I think are worth calling out. If we go to File Settings, I think this one might be under Advanced. So we go to Advanced. There's a really cool option in here somewhere, and I'm not really sure. I guess first of all, if you are still using the MK, the remix format, the Remux MKV is what I'm trying to say. You can actually set this up to automatically remux it to MP4, so that can save you a lot of time. But we have that. That is really cool. If we actually go over to the vertical, and let me just change scenes in here, just so we've got something a little bit more obvious. We do have these icons over here. So we've got the ability to stream to vertical places. We've got the ability to record. We've got the ability to backtrack. We won't worry about backtracking today. We've even got a vertical camera. And you can't see it because my big head is in the way. But there's also some settings here. So if we click on the settings option, we've got recording options. And there's this really beautiful thing that says start and stop recording when the main OBS starts and stops recording. This is brilliant. So what we can do, we can go and do our presentation. And again, I'll move this over here where you can see it. I'm going to start recording. Hi everybody, today I want to talk to you about the virtual camera. This is my presentation. I do my presentation. I go over to my screen share. I do my call to action at the end. And then I hit stop recording. And if I go back to this magical folder that has our presentation files in it, we will see that we should actually have two versions of this. But I guess the thing I forgot to note was where the vertical ones will be saved. So let me just go back in here. Recording. It is actually saying, so yeah, it's recording to F videos. So, which is not really a problem, but again, I'd probably want to actually move it to the place that I wanted it to be. But essentially you will have two versions of that. In fact, what I might do, I think OBS has seized up on me over there. Let's turn the screen share off for a second. We'll go back here. So let me just go and find that video and I'll drag it into the right folder. Again, it's probably something that's worth actually looking at ahead of time. There it is. All right, so if I go back to my screen share, I've got the two versions of the video. In fact, I don't think that's actually the one I've copied over isn't the right one, but it's another example essentially of a vertical recording. So the great thing about this is you have these two versions. You can upload them, you know, do the vertical one to TikTok or YouTube Shorts or wherever you want it to be. You've got the horizontal version. You can actually throw these both into video editing software like DaVinci Resolve. You can actually work on it as one single project and then export it, which is really quite epic and fun. So we have those options there. So I hope this has been useful. The chat's been a little bit quiet. I realize it's quite late at night or in the morning for some of our viewers, so that's totally cool. But just summarizing, the ability to run this out of OBS is really cool because it lets you be sort of software agnostic for all the chat platforms, so things like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and you can even bring stuff like this into Restream Studio. You can bring it into StreamYard, that sort of thing as well. You can control all the elements within your video frame. So if you want to bring in some branding, that's really cool. You can bring in text and QR codes and all of the things. And if you want to give that presentation again, just go to the scene collection, pick it, and you're pretty much ready to go. If you do want to work with slides, you do need to export them to an image format that is supported by OBS. It does support most things. Again, if you're interested in preserving some of that transparency, so you can work in layers, you can use PNG or GIF formats. When it comes to working with a screen share, we've got the ability to grab that display capture, which is your entire screen, or a specific window. And again, the window option gives you that audio capture as well, which is really, really cool. In terms of recording, you can go to the dock, the controls dock, and actually start recording. If you do want to actually go in and adjust those settings, you can. I must say, I really love the hybrid MP4 format, so I definitely give that a go. I've never had any problems with it, which is kind of surprising, really, because I've been using it for quite a while. It's really good, but again, if you do use the older MKV format, you can remux those in OBS as well. And there is that setting to actually automatically remux them after your recording has finished. And of course, with the Atom Vertical plugin, you can go vertical, horizontal, same time. You can stream, record, or use the virtual camera. The only thing I would note is I don't think you can use the horizontal virtual camera and the vertical virtual camera at the same time. That causes problems. So just be careful about that one. But otherwise, I think that's kind of what I wanted to show you. I'm really curious if this is an approach that you would consider using for your presentations in the future. If you would, let me know about it in the chat. But otherwise, have a great week. Have a great weekend when you get there. Next week, I'm alternating my shows in 2025, so I will be doing Learn Live Streaming Live. I don't have a topic just yet, so let me know if there is something you're interested in learning more about. But otherwise, have a great time, and I will talk to you again very, very soon.